They've been called true wild boys of rock and roll.
Have a drink. Goodbye. Have a drink.
Shy.
I hope that each and every one of them die in a pool of their own vomit.
Polite.
Are you going out again?
And egotistical.
I'm part of the greatest band in the world. Am I happy with that? No, I'm not! I want more!
Oasis revolve around the brothers Gallagher, whose volatile relationship has been acted out in front of the press.
He was like the weirdo in the family.
He's had a easy life, I'll tell you that.
But before taking shots at one another, they endure blows from an explosive and abusive father.
Once you've been left virtually unconscious on the floor by your dad and you know that you're not going to die, then you've got no fear of anything.
The self-dubbed Bad Boys of Rock, Oasis captured the music and imagination of an era, and along with the attitude came adulation from millions of fans.
Their haircuts make news. It was a front-page story when Liam and Noel had their hair cut short.
Liam isn't just pretty, he's extraordinary looking, and actually, you know, you could describe him as beautiful.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
But with each chart success came hits of a different kind.
And Liam being Liam, he'll want 2 drinks, 4 drinks, 25 drinks, 5 o'clock in the morning drinks.
Cocaine, cigarettes and Jack Daniels. Proper rock and roll.
And all the roads we have to walk are winding.
It would take fatherhood to bring some calm to Oasis.
It's time to grow up a little bit. This is my band and I want it to work. I love rock and roll.
Now the story of a band that has played out across the front pages. Behind the music, Oasis. For some, they're a curse on the rock and roll landscape. For others, they're the best thing England's thrown up since the Beatles.
Oasis!
But thanks to the media circus that surrounds them, Oasis are no sanctuary. More of a war zone occupied by 2 brothers and 1 rocky relationship.
You can't agree on nothing.
If you tell Liam not to put his head in the fire, then he will.
You can't even agree to disagree.
If you advise him not to do something, then he's going to go and do it. So you just got to let him go on with it.
Ain't no illusion. Try to click with what you got.
In February 2000, 6 years after Oasis crashed onto the music scene, the band released Standing on the Shoulder of Giants.
Go let it in and go let it out.
Critics have called their 4th studio album their finest work to date, an exhilarating celebration of rock and roll.
I think they're thinking more seriously about things. You know, they're not 21 anymore.
It's like being in a new band, so it's almost like a new beginning.
But while Oasis may have matured musically, the jury's still out on Noel and Liam's relationship.
I come first before any me. Get out of the garden.
A perfectionist at heart, Noel is the band's lead guitarist, backing vocalist and gifted songwriter. He heads Oasis but claims he'll never get to grips with lead singer and little brother Liam.
Well, I don't argue with anybody else in the band, ever. See, well, the thing about Liam is he has to have these little things once in a while just to justify his own existence, you know what I mean? Other than that, he's just the singer in the group, isn't he?
But as a frontman, Liam soaks up the rock star adulation and has much to do with the attitude that is Oasis.
And we still are the most important band in the world, and we'll be the most important band in the world until I say so. You know what I mean?
One thing Liam and Noel don't argue about is where they grew up. They're sown in the seeds of Manchester. Manchester proudly calls itself the world's first industrialised city. Once it rivalled London as the centre of commerce, but by the early 60s its economy went bust. As unemployment soared by more than 30%, poverty for a lot of people was a fact of life. For Irish immigrants like Peggy and Thomas Gallagher, raising a family was to be a constant daily struggle. They found support in Manchester's closely knit Irish community and gave birth to 3 sons, Paul, Noel and Liam. Liam was the youngest and a burden for his older brothers.
He was the little sort of brat that we had to take out. Sort of thing my mum would say, "You're not going out unless you take him with you."
My older brother being the oldest, he got his own room and I had to share a room with Liam. So I've always resented him for that, because he took up a lot of my space and still does to this day.
The boys attended a strict Catholic school, but their studies often took second place to the distractions that could be found outside the school walls.
I got, a couple of burglaries, breaking into a local corner shop, shoplifting, man, just general, do you know what I mean?
As punishment, Noel was often confined to the house. Out of boredom, he picked up the guitar.
So the only thing to do would either be do your homework, which I didn't particularly like doing because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed academically, But so I'd start to pick up this guitar and sort of mess around.
The guitar was Noel's only refuge from the rough reality of home life. The boys say their father, a construction worker, drank his wages and disappeared for days on end. When he did come home, the family was often the target of his drunken rages.
Once you've been left virtually unconscious on the floor by your dad and you know that you're not going to die, then you've got no fear of anything. People say, well, you seem to speak about it so flippantly, and it's like, well, that was just my upbringing, Suppose it makes you what you are. Ain't no big thing to me. Physical abuse was just the way that it was.
After more than 18 years of abuse, Peggy Gallagher had had enough. One night in the autumn of 1983, after her husband had headed for the pub, she gathered up her boys and the family made their exit.
One night, we just came home and that was it, we were moving.
We just got everything together, beds, everything. We left him the carpets, that's it.
It was good, actually. It was like, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to us. You know what I mean?
Peggy found herself struggling to make a new home for her and her teenage boys. She juggled various jobs with trying to keep them under control. Noel, who quit school at 15, worked as an apprentice for the gas company. After work, he'd sit locked away in his bedroom with his guitar, contemplating his future.
I'm either going to go and work in the local factory, be a drug dealer, or, see if I can do anything with this guitar, eh? So I decided if I was going to make anything of my entire life, that was going to be it.
He was like the weirdo in the family, as far as I was concerned, when he was into his music and into his guitars and that.
In May of '89, Noel got a job as a guitar technician within Spiral Carpets. Life on the road got him out of Manchester, but Liam, left behind and now aged 13, was getting bored of school life.
I never rock car stereos or anything like that, you know what I mean? I just walk past the shop, be a mountain bike outside, and I'd go, thank you very much.
When he was 15, Liam was expelled from school for fighting and took a job as a fence builder. But after a couple of years, and like his older brother, he found himself drifting into music.
So I got into music when I was about 18 or something, 17. And I thought, I could do that. I could do that well easy, you know what I mean? It was just a matter of time of getting the right people around, you know what I mean?
Liam started singing in the summer of 91, joining 3 friends in a group called Rain, whose name and musical direction was about to be changed. When life with the Inspirals brought Noel back to Manchester that summer, he was surprised to discover Liam had taken a keen interest in the music world.
Seeing your little brother up on stage, singing with the lights on him and all that, it's like, because he never really expressed an interest in music, let alone like being in a band. So I'm like, cheers, mate.
So we played this gig and it was all right. I thought it'd be great, you know what I mean? But I still knew in the back of my mind it needed improving. We needed better songs and, we needed a bit more direction.
Liam wanted the band to make it, so much so that he knew it meant having Noel on board.
Because we were and we knew that we wouldn't get any better unless we had his songs, you know what I mean? And his guitar playing and stuff, You just have to make him feel really important and go, please, Noel, please join us. We are not worthy, you know what I mean? And then he'd sort of like come round.
Noel agreed to join the band, but only if they stopped playing Liam's songs.
The stuff that Liam and them were writing was just awful. They were shocking. I mean, seriously. I mean, if you think, right, that some of my stuff's bad, you really wouldn't want to hear the stuff they were coming out with before I joined.
5 months later, with a new name, Liam out front and Noel in control, Oasis had a few songs, a new direction and a small but dedicated following, which included Manchester's music hero, Johnny Marr of the Smiths.
It really was 12 people and a dog, you know. I mean, the place could have had hundreds and hundreds of people in there for all they cared, because there was loads of energy and loads of passion, and it was very loud.
In 1993, the boys heard a London record executive was travelling to Glasgow to scout for bands. Confident they could blag their way onto the bill, they got together enough money to rent a van and made the 6-hour trip up north.
So we got to the gig. We knocked on the door and the fella come out and he said yes. And we said, oh, we've come with the band, we've come to play tonight. And he looked down his list and he said, you're not on here tonight.
She's going, no, you're not playing, son. I was just like, not you, let's play.
Oasis bullied their way into the opening slot and blew the crowd away. After the show, Alan McGee, head of Creation Records, invited the band to meet him the next week in London.
And I just bullshit him for about an hour and a half about how fantastic we were going to be, about all these songs that we'd written, which we hadn't. And he bought it. He bought it. And we got a 6-album record deal. I remember going back up on the train to Manchester going, right, I better write some songs now.
With only 6 original songs, Oasis had bluffed their way into an incredible 6-album deal with Creation.
Maybe I don't really want to know.
1993, and with a record deal behind them, Noel was driving the band through the making of their first album with his own high expectations.
It had to be the most important rock record since Nevermind by Nirvana. It just had to be, or there would have been no point in doing it. We might never have made a second record.
Obsessed with perfection, Noel forced the band to record the album 3 times.
They might have recorded them parts twice, but I think I got it in pretty much one take, actually.
With Noel and the rest of the band happy with the album, Oasis took to the road with no certainties.
We didn't know whether we were going to last 5 years or 5 months, but we knew we were going to have a good time finding out.
Creation Records financed a small tour, hoping it would make the band smarten their act up. Instead, they polished off their entire budget on drugs and booze.
We wouldn't pay any hotel room bills. We just, we'd just gone mental. We get back to the office and they'd say, well, we're at £2,000 in debt, you know what I mean? You've only done 4 shows, and we'd be like, spent it.
On the 30th of August 1994, Oasis released their first album. Without a doubt, Definitely Maybe was an absolute success. Critics declared it a wake-up call for Britain's stale music scene.
The first time I listened, I just suddenly got how important that record was, how hypnotic it was, how infectious it was.
They just took a picture of the way they were living when they first started out, and their friends were living, and just kind of put it in the songs and made it bigger.
I need to be myself. I can't be no one else.
The album would surpass the Beatles as the UK's fastest-selling debut in history. More high-flying when Behind the Music, Oasis continues. As the press descended on Oasis, the swaggering Gallagher brothers took the opportunity to boldly declare themselves the best rock band in the world.
Next question.
Yeah, we're excellent. We are the best.
We are the best band. we make the best albums. You know, we're a great band.
I actually think Oasis truly did believe they were the best band in the world. They were wrong, but they did believe it, and that made them a good band.
I'll tell you what, if you tell enough people that you're the best band in the world, you know what I mean? If you go around telling everyone, 50% of them are going to believe you.
While Oasis had their believers, critics accused them of shamelessly stealing from the Beatles.
I don't see the point in writing your own tunes when you can pinch somebody else's.
Yeah, they do have good taste in the people they steal from.
They're not pretending not to be stealing something. They're making it obvious that they're borrowing. So then it becomes like homage.
Critics aside, their music and attitude helped to define an era, and Oasis were heroes.
I think Oasis were a phenomenon that changed the face of not just British music, but of Britain. I mean, the way people dressed, for instance, changed almost overnight. A lot of people started having Oasis haircuts. A lot of the language that they used started to come into British vocabulary.
I'm mad for it. Oasis are the best band in the world!
The phenomenon that was Oasis meant that even a bootleg recording of the Gallagher brothers arguing became hot property.
Because the Rolling Stones got arrested, they were a great rock and roll band. No, bull bitch, out of my band.
You know, he writes the songs and that, but I think I'm equally, you know, as talented and as good looking as him, totally.
Oh yeah, he's totally schizophrenic, yeah. But whereas I'm like a Gemini, he is actually schizophrenic.
It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about the songs. No, it isn't. It's not. Shut the up, man. The Pistols then. Wait, they won't see.
Soon the dueling duo were known as much for their mayhem as they were for their music, serving up big headlines for the hungry tabloids.
There's nothing we like more than a little bit of a feud between two brothers. I suppose it's like a Lennon-McCartney thing. It's a double act and they are very, very funny together.
What's mine's mine and what's his, I give him half of. We became this monster double act, you know, and the kids loved it. And we lived up to it a bit, I suppose.
By the beginning of 1995, the Gallagher brothers had become a worldwide phenomenon.
I'd wait in the freezing cold in the rain, and it doesn't really make a difference to me, as long as I get to see the show.
Success gave the boys freedom like they'd never known, and the spoils of stardom were just too much to resist.
If you get into a band and you're young and get all this money and it's all going all right and everything, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, go to bed at 10 o'clock? You know, you're going to have it, aren't you?
After spending 11 years unemployed in grey old Manchester, the threat of violence every night you went down to the local pub, petty crime, to being the biggest rock star in England, what are you telling me you're going to shun that? No, you know, that's when the party started. It's like now the bar is officially open.
With their debut release, Oasis had made a huge impact in Europe. They were the most talked about English export since the Beatles, to whom they would be constantly compared. In the summer of 1995, just after a year-long tour, the band headed back into the studio.
If I'd have been straight recording that album, I might have crumbled under the weight of the expectation following the first one.
Noel had painstakingly crafted their debut record, but now the pressure was on. Rehearsal was a luxury they couldn't afford. Although often smashed, Noel was churning out instant classics.
It was just another day in the life of Noel Gallagher, the rock star. And, you know, today I'm going to record this song. This next song goes like this. Today is gonna be the day, but they'll never throw it back to you. And by now we should somehow realize what's in to do.
In October of 1995, fans descended upon record stores to buy What's the Story, Morning Glory. The album entered the UK charts at #1 and also found them success in America. Music critics raved, calling it the first truly convincing rock album of the decade. The overwhelming response even surpassed Liam's elevated expectations.
I thought each album would, you know, do better than the last one. But I didn't think it'd take that much of a leap, you know what I mean?
The album would eventually sell over 12 million copies and surpass the sales of their debut release. But for Noel, Morning Glory would never measure up.
I like Some Might Say, and I like Don't Look Back in Anger, I like Wonderwall and Champagne Supernova. I mean, when I listen back to that album as a whole now, I can't stand it, to be honest with you.
On the heels of the record's release, the band took to touring again and found themselves riding high. But just when it seemed that they'd left their turbulent past behind, more trouble was just around the corner. In March of 1996, while still on tour in Dublin, Liam and Noel were confronted with a part of their past they thought they'd left far behind.
Basically, I just remember Noel coming up to me, one of the security people, and says, "You see that guy over there?" And we're like, "Yeah, that's my father."
Knowing the staged reunion would make a story, the News of the World paid for their estranged father's trip to the band's hotel.
I don't know what the angle of the story was meant to be, but there he was.
Wanting nothing to do with a father he hadn't seen in 10 years, Noel disappeared to his room.
As far as I'm concerned, I haven't got a father. He's not a father figure to me, you know. I don't respect him in any way whatsoever.
But the opportunity to unload years of locked-up anger proved too tempting for 23-year-old Liam.
So then I just bowled over and said, "Come on then, if you want it, let's have it." And his heart dropped. And that was that.
The newspaper headline read, "I thought Liam would kill me," but tour manager Maggie Muzikitis says Thomas Gallagher was whisked out of the bar before anyone got hurt.
We just got him out of the hotel as quickly as we can, really. It was a bit sort of sick, just a bit, this isn't right.
Noel managed to avoid his dad that night, but the close encounter opened up old feelings.
I still to this day don't really think that I ever got to know my dad, you know what I mean? Part of me thinks, well, he wasn't such a bad geezer, he was just an idiot, you know what I mean? And then part of me thinks that he was like the most evil man that walked the earth.
For their fans, their headlines did little to diminish their idol's star power. In the summer of 1996, over the course of 2 nights, 250,000 fans packed Nebworth to pay homage.
Yourself. Definitely, everyone was. It's like everyone was on a big high, you know. You see all those people, and you're like, Christ, when I get up there, I'm gonna just it all up.
There was a few stiff drinks before we went on. There was definitely a few, you know, to steady the ship.
The shows were to host the largest crowds ever to see a single act in British history.
They were the biggest gigs ever to be held in Britain, and they probably remain like that until Oasis next play Nebworth.
It was a career milestone, but the overwhelming attention sent Liam off on a massive drink and drugs binge that would trigger a bizarre string of events. Hot on the heels of Nebworth, Oasis was scheduled to perform an acoustic set for MTV. Minutes before they were due on stage, Liam pulled out.
He turns up with the beard, looking like Grizzly Adams, you know what I mean, after being in the pub for 2 days. Can't walk, let alone sing.
They had a sore throat. I'd been out on the piss, and I just had a sore throat.
And this is dropped on my lap, right, 15 minutes before we're walking out on that stage. It's like, oh, hang on a minute, now you're the singer. So I'm like, well, thank you very much. Good evening. Liam ain't going to be with us tonight because he's got sore throat, so he's stuck with the ugly four, as they say. Before they might. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've subsequently found out that he doesn't like singing with the band acoustically. But I wish he'd have mentioned that before the 2,500 people turned up, you know, expecting to see him. Oh, there you are.
Adding insult to injury, Liam heckled his brother from the balcony, while at the same time nursing his sore throat with numerous cigarettes and alcohol.
He sits in the stands heckling, you know what I mean? Because he does it one time, he gets a bit of a giggle from the crowd, so he thinks it's really cool to do that.
Shut up.
But heckling, so what, you know what I mean? We're all big boys, you know what I mean? I was only joking.
I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.
Not asked about his big brother dying on stage.
Baby, you gonna be the one that saves me.
Literally dying.
And after all, you're my wonderwall.
Noel was furious with his younger brother, but Liam made no apologies and soon was staging another stunt. On August the 26th, just before Oasis boarded a plane to start a short US tour, Liam had a change of mind.
It was a bit weird. I mean, you know, 1 minute we're getting on a jumbo and the next minute he's going the opposite way on one of those little funny beeping vehicles.
Liam decided it was more important to buy a house with his future wife, Patsy Kensit, than fulfill his touring commitments.
You come before your Thursday, you make...
Yeah, of course I do. That's me, yeah. I come first. I don't care. I forgot about it. I didn't know. No one sorted me else out. I come first before any and that's my attitude, all right?
Rather than cancelling any shows, Noel decided Oasis would carry on without Liam.
We wouldn't pull the gig because that would be giving in, you know what I mean? That would be making him think that he's more important than the band, which he's not. I don't want it to seem that just because by the wave of his hand that he picks and chooses what he wants to do and the whole thing is going to stop.
Personally, I don't give a really. I mean, if he's there, he's there. You know, but we had a job to do, so we ain't going to cancel.
Liam was shocked when the band pressed on without him.
Personally, I thought we shouldn't have done it, you know, if I weren't there. Not because, like, hey, I'm the man, you know what I mean, or whatever. I just think, you know, we're a band, you know what I mean?
A week later, Liam was back with the band and back at it with the boys. And a very weary Noel finally snapped.
Everybody was full of their own self-importance just because we'd sold a bunch of records, you know, and it was no big deal to me. So I packed my bags, and I stayed that night in the hotel, and I got up in the morning and I said, look, I'm going back to England. And they said, well, you know, well, you can't. So I said, well, you know, nobody tells me what I can and can't do, and I'm going.
On the 11th of September 1996, less than 3 weeks after setting attendance records at Nebworth, Noel said goodbye to the group he once led. The future of the band was now uncertain, and many, including Liam, questioned if Oasis had dried up. Noel seemed to be at a crossroads in his career, but to walk away would be to take a huge step.
Noel Gallagher arrived back in tonight to face a barrage of questions about the future of Oasis.
Is it the end for Oasis?
By this stage, he was fed up with Liam's antics, and Noel planned to finish work on the next album and retire. But in the studio, he had a change of heart.
It was more recreational behaviour. And before you know it, your managers book you a tour, and you're back out on the road again. And I was sort of remember going halfway around the world and thinking, hang on a minute, I was supposed to be leaving. The f did this happen?
In 1997, Oasis released their third album, Be Here Now. Though the record would go on to sell more than 7 million copies, the music critics described it as a major disappointment.
Step off the train on alone at dawn, back into the home where I was born.
I thought it was a little bloated, overly psychedelic. If you're going to be a little pretentious, you need to have something to say. and they didn't have anything to say. I
just thought it was funny. You know, some bands won't sell 7 million albums in their whole career, will they?
Where were you while we were getting high?
With the release of their third album, Be Here Now, Oasis were flying high. And once more, the tabloids were given a field day.
There's people in the Houses of Parliament, man, who are bigger heroin addicts and like cocaine addicts than anyone in this room right now.
All the people in the House of Commons were on heroin. Yeah. One of my better moments, I have to say.
Drugs, it's like getting up and having a cup of tea in the morning.
And, you know, until people realise that, then when I say stuff, innit? Do you want a line?
Parliament was not amused.
I don't know of one who does take drugs, and if he does know of one who does take drugs, he ought to report that to the police because that person is breaking the law. If he doesn't, he ought to shut up.
Well, in my own stupid, drunk little way, I was trying to make a point that all the people that you think are respectable, you know, upstanding citizens, you know, are not. People have this fictitious thing about drug takers sitting in darkened rooms and they're all skinny white people with spots on with needles hanging out their arms. No, they're not. They're lawyers, and doctors, and airline pilots, and police officers, and you name it.
Noel's wild allegations backfired as his own cocaine problem became front-page news.
Oh, I'd stay up for days, doing loads of coke, drinking, anything, just do anything. Because that's what you do, innit? It's your divine right as a rock star to be like that, you know? You don't want lots of kids coming backstage and you sat there drinking mineral water. You know, what would they think? You know, you've got to be lying in the corner, halfway into a coma, you know, with a bottle of Jack Daniels.
In early 1997, Oasis stopped long enough for the brothers to get married. Liam to actress Patsy Kensit and Noel to publicist Meg Matthews. But love did little to calm the Gallaghers. On February the 23rd, 1998, aboard a Cathay Pacific flight from Hong Kong to Australia, the Gallagher brothers caused their own mid-air turbulence. Passengers and crew were introduced to the rock and roll mindset.
What Liam generally does when he gets on an aeroplane is he just starts being annoying, like he starts throwing things, you know, various members of the group.
You know, those warm things come out of the microwave. I think it's just a few of them getting thrown about. I think one of them landed on some woman's head.
So I pointed this out to him, and an argument ensued. This is before the plane's even taken off, right?
I've seen this tasty little, like, scone getting passed through, and that would, like, jam on and out of the thought, I'm having one of them. So I said to the lady, can I have one of them, please? She's like, said, no, you can't. And I've said, look, you know, you silly cow, you know, I'm asking for a scone. So she wouldn't give me one, so I told her to go away and that, and before I'd slap her and that. I got a bit carried away and stuff, and then she went, oh, go and get the pilot. I said, bring him out here and I'll slap that. Lost it and that, because I really wanted one of these buns and that.
The whole commotion must have lasted for no more than 20 minutes, maybe half an hour maximum. Then after that, they were so, you know, drunk that they fell asleep.
When they stepped off the plane in Perth, the press was waiting to pounce. 24 hours later, Liam was still raging at what he believed was a grave injustice.
And he told me to shut my mouth and, like, carry on. I'm like, which is fine, because I like that. Who told you to shut your mouth? Some panhead who wants stabbing with a pickaxe. That's enough. That's enough, lads.
Cathay Pacific didn't press charges, but Liam was banned from the airline for life.
I don't give a flying what Cathay Pacific, because I'll tell you, kids, I'd rather walk.
I feel bad after I've said it. Maybe, you know, maybe sometimes I think, you know what I mean? But I feel better at the time. You know what I mean? Totally. Otherwise I'll just get stressed and break out in spots on it.
After touring and recording for 5 years, cracks were beginning to appear, and the band were in need of a break. Depressed and exhausted, going home offered little comfort to 30-year-old Noel.
Nothing in my life seemed to be going the way it was supposed to be, you know what I mean? Didn't like the band I was in, didn't like the music I was making. Wife was getting on my nerves.
Noel continued to binge on coke and booze. Then one night in the autumn of 1998, he was crippled by stabbing chest pains. His wife Meg called a doctor to the house.
And he just said, well, just stop taking drugs and you'll be fine. And I was going, well, that's not the answer that I wanted to hear, I'm afraid. I wanted to hear something else, you know. He said, well, that's just the way it's got to be, you know what I mean?
Heeding his doctor's advice to stop taking drugs, Noel retreated to his home in the country and kicked cocaine cold turkey style.
You better get on your knees and pray. Panic is on the way.
Just went to bed. Stayed in bed for a couple of days, and I was actually surprised how easy it actually was. It was no big deal for me. I just stopped doing it, and that was the end of that.
For the first time in years, Noel was drug-free and undeniably happy. By the beginning of 1999, he had new songs and was ready to take the band back into the studio. Noel was determined to come away with the best album of their career, so he demanded Liam clean up his act as well.
He's out of control and he's pissed, you know. So we said, look, you know, we're not going to go and do the record unless you stop drinking.
Liam wasn't prepared to accept Noel's ultimatum until his wife Patsy started applying pressure.
And she turned and she went, look, you know, it's about time. I understand what he's saying. And they're totally right, and it's about time someone told you.
Liam reluctantly agreed to stay sober. For the first time in a long time, he and Noel were bypassing the pub for the studio, and they expected the rest of the band to follow suit.
And when we go out there, everyone was supposed to be on the wagon and not go drinking while we were in France.
But in less than 2 weeks, Noel and Liam watched as original members Paul Bonehead Arthurs and Paul Giggsy McGuigan walked away. The reasons for their departures were unclear. Maybe they'd had their fill, but that's one thought Noel doesn't entertain.
Who the right, leaves a band the size of Oasis when they don't have to?
Stand by me, and nobody knows the way it's gonna be.
The sudden departures of the band's rhythm and bass guitarist left Liam stunned, but Noel was the one who worked things out.
It's like Liam would the usual freaking out, overreacting, everything. Well, what are we going to do? It's like, look, what we're going to do is we're going to go home, I'm going to go to bed, and in the morning, I am going to hatch a plan, and it will be better than it's ever been. So go home, sit down, leave it to your big brother.
How would you sum up Oasis in one word?
Me.
And it was during this period of change that Liam finally found some sobering reality.
I'm not easy to work with, you know what I mean? And this is a new thing for the band, and, you know, I'm more serious about the band now than I ever have been. You know, it's time to grow up a little bit.
After the better part of a year, Oasis emerged with a new lineup, a new record, and a new attitude.
I'm not really concerned about being the biggest or the best anymore. I've done all that, you know. I've been a phenomenon once. Don't want to be one again, you know.
In February of 2000, they released Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. Critics have called it their most focused and mature album to date.
And I think that they've moved on, which is what they've had to do. This album, I think, has gone back to maybe more of the raw sound from Definitely Maybe, and I think that it will show that they're going to be around for a long time yet.
Noel's writing about different things. You know, I'm sure he's told you he's off the drugs, you know, and he's thinking about things. And a lot of it's come across in these lyrics.
First and foremost on Noel's mind is daughter Anais, born in January 2000. He says fatherhood has brought on a serious change.
I had my rock and roll phase, and I had my drug phase, and I had my women phase, and I'm through all that now. This is a calm phase. It's a very calm. I hope it doesn't last, because when things last too long, they become boring, don't they?
Brother Liam's a father too. In 1999, his wife Patsy gave birth to a boy they named Lennon, after Liam's long-term idol, John.
It's changed me in a way that, you know, I'm not the most important person in my world anymore, you know what I mean? Lennon is, you know what I mean?
The brothers, who once boldly claimed to have the best band in the world, are now singing to a different tune. They've backed off their bravado and are now content to let their music do the talking.
You know, I've got a baby now, and I want, you know, I want the band to carry on. This is my band, and I want it to work. I love rock and roll.
It's all true. It's all completely turned around now. We just want to get on with the music. Forget all that crap. It's all been done before. Let some other band do it now. You get bored with it. All that drinking and taking drugs just gets in the way, so...
With nothing but their rock and roll dreams, the brothers Gallagher bullied their way into a life less ordinary to become the true kings of Britpop.
There is an amazing history. The Who, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Sex Pistols. I do think Oasis will be added to that, and will be remembered simply for the fact because they did change the face of this country.
Now Oasis have embarked on a new chapter of what has already been a remarkable and, some might say, self-assured career.
Noel and Liam together are Oasis, actually. But it's up to them. They could last forever. They just got to keep doing it.
What would be a terrible shame is if they don't make 7, 8, 9, 10 albums that are as good for their time as Exile on Main Street and The White Album and Blood on the Tracks and all those classic rock albums. That's the sort of success I think they should have.
Whatever the future holds for Oasis, it will be built on the enigmatic but indestructible bond that will forever tie the Gallagher brothers together.
But it's always there, you know what I mean? It'll be there till the day we die, you know what I mean?
You know what? If he came in this room now and told me that all his life he'd actually been a woman, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd find that hard, you know what I mean? I would go, I always knew there was something weird about you. There's nothing that boy could do or say to me that would shock me anymore.
I need to be myself. I can't be no one else. I'm feeling supersonic. Give me gin and tonic. You can have it all, but how much do you want it? Make me laugh. Give me your autograph. Can I ride with you in your BMW? You can sail with me in my yellow submarine.